Hello Daily Drafters, and welcome to the Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy pre-release guide, here on the channel designed to get you ready for your pre-release events this weekend. This video will be full of useful information for beginners to seasoned veterans, whether this will be your first ever pre-release, or if you're looking for Final Fantasy specific information such as a rundown on new and returning mechanics, limited archetypes, and more to make sure you are on top of your game at your LGS. So whether you're new here or you've been here a while, stay tuned for the ultimate guide in helping you crush your Final Fantasy pre-release. Now, some of you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a pre-release? Well, each year there are roughly 4 to 6 main set releases of Magic the Gathering products, and most local game stores run what's called a pre-release for each of these main set releases. Essentially, you battle it out against your friends and strangers using several booster packs of the brand new cards for the upcoming set that has yet to be released, hence the name pre-release. If this sounds interesting to you, let's take a step-by-step look at exactly how these events are run. Step 1. Locate your local game store. In order to participate in a pre-release event, you'll need to find one. If you do not already have a local game store that you frequent, I've included a link in the description to a website that will help you find a game store running a pre-release event near you. Now that you've found where you'll be participating, it's time to get registered. Usually stores will run events all weekend, maybe one on Friday, a couple on Saturday, and one on Sunday. Check with your LGS to see when the events are happening and which ones you'd like to attend. Be sure to note that sometimes these events do fill up fast, so you may want to pre-register to ensure you have a spot. It just depends on your store. Other times you can just walk in and register on the spot, so be sure to find out what's best for your situation. Now that you're registered, it's time for the fun part. When it's time to start the event, you will get handed a pre-release kit like the one you see on your screen now. For this set, there is only one pre-release kit that you can receive. In other sets, like Tarkir Dragonstorm, the last set actually, you can have a choice, but for Final Fantasy, we've got just the one. Now that you've got your kit, when the event begins, you'll be instructed to open your kit and begin your deck build. It varies from store to store, but usually you'll have about 50 minutes or so to build your deck and get ready for your matches. Let's take a look at what you'll find when you open your kit. Inside you will find one traditional foil rare or mythic rare from Final Fantasy with a year stamp, and here's an example of what that card might look like using a rare from the last set, Tarkir Dragonstorm. 6 Final Fantasy play boosters, 1 20-sided spin down die, and 1 MTG Arena code card. As many of you may be aware, draft boosters are now a thing of the past and were replaced with play boosters last year. This certainly threw a wrench in things when it came to drafting the last several sets, so I wanted to break down what Final Fantasy will look like. Every Final Fantasy play booster will contain a variation on the following: 7 commons, and 33% of the time one of these 7 commons will be replaced by a card from the Through the Ages bonus sheet. And these are all reprinted cards given a new Final Fantasy artwork look. You can expect a normal rarity distribution from these cards in this slot as well. 3 uncommons, 1 rare or mythic rare, 1 non-foil wild card of any rarity from the main set, which has a 19% chance to be a common, a 64% chance to be an uncommon, and a 17% chance to be a rare or mythic. 1 foil card of any rarity, which has a 56% chance to be a common, a 36% chance to be an uncommon, and an 8% chance to be a rare or mythic. And the final slot will be a land card that will be a common dual land 55% of the time, and a regular basic land the other 45% of the time. Alright, we now have everything we need to begin our deck build. If you'd like to see an example of a Final Fantasy sealed deck build, stick around to the final segment of this video, which is time-stamped below, where I will build an entire sealed deck on screen for you to follow along with. After you've built your deck, you will then be assigned an opponent by the event coordinator and you will play out your first match. Different stores will give you different amount of matches for the event, but it's usually a minimum of 3. Sometimes you might get lucky and be able to play 4 or more, it just depends. After you finish your matches, you may qualify for some prizes, so be sure to check with the event coordinator to cash in on your winnings. I did also want to note here that if you've gone to a pre-release event in the last year or so, you might have noticed the price to enter move up a little bit with the advent of play boosters last year. They used to consistently run right about $25 US, but the play boosters have upped that to right around 30 or even $35 US. That being said, if you want to participate in the Final Fantasy pre-release, expect to pay about $50 US for the experience. There's nothing inherently special or more powerful about this set to justify the price hike, to be honest. It's simply just because Magic is using an already established and well-loved IP that its player base is willing to shell out more money for. Remember, these cards will be standard legal, so it's unlikely that they will end up with any more powerful, on average, than any other set in the last year. You're just paying more to see Cloud on a Magic card, that's all. What I'm going to do now is go over some of the notable mechanics for the set, go over the themes associated with the draftable archetypes, and just give a general rundown of what's going on in Final Fantasy before I do my deck build, so we both have a better idea what to look out for. The first new mechanic present here in Final Fantasy is Job Select, and this is an easy one, especially for those of you that played during Phyrexia All Will Be One, as it is essentially identical to the For Mirrodin mechanic. When an equipment with Job Select enters, you create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token, and then that equipment attaches itself to it. That's pretty much it. The equipment still has effects beyond that and can be re-equipped as needed, but it's just a way to buff the power of the equipment by giving you a 1/1 to go along with it. In the case of Dragoon's Lance, you will pay 1 and a white for an equipment that creates a 1/1 and attaches itself to it. That 1/1 will then get +1/+0 and flying during your turn, and it can be re-equipped for 4 generic mana. The next new mechanic we have is the Tiered mechanic, which is basically just a new take on Kicker or Spree for those Thunder Junction fans. Each card with Tiered is a modal spell with 3 different modes. Each mode includes an additional cost. To cast a spell with Tiered, choose one of its modes and the associated additional cost. For example, if you want to cast Ice Magic with its Blizzard effect, you'll pay the mana cost of 1 and a blue. For the Blizzara effect, you'll pay 1 and a blue plus the additional cost of 2 generic mana for a total of 3 and a blue. And finally, for the Blizzaga effect, it costs 1 and a blue plus an additional 5 and a blue for a total cost of 6 and 2 blue. The key is that you can only choose one additional cost to pay, not multiples. The final new mechanic we have is an interesting twist on a returning card type, and that is Saga Creatures. Saga Creatures follow all the same rules texts that other sagas do. Each saga has a number of chapter abilities preceded by a Roman numeral symbol. Each saga enters with a lore counter on it, and then this causes the first chapter ability to trigger. As your first main phase begins, during each of your turns, you add a lore counter to each saga you control, including the Saga Creatures. Anytime you add a lore counter to a saga, check the number of lore counters it now has, and that chapter ability matching the new number will trigger. After the last ability finishes resolving, or otherwise leaves the stack, you sacrifice the saga. A saga creature is also a creature and can do everything a creature can do. It can attack, although not the turn it comes under your control unless it has haste, and it can block. Saga creatures aren't on the battlefield for a long time, but they can make a devastating impact in their short time with you. So those are actually all of the new mechanics associated with this set, so let's now check out the draftable archetypes that Final Fantasy will feature, each of which are visible on your screen now. White-Blue is an archetype that cares the most about artifacts. It's a deck that looks to build up its arsenal by playing artifacts, including token-generating artifact equipment, and then looks to gain extra bonuses for playing and controlling those artifacts. Blue-Black is billed as a classic control deck that looks to dominate the long game with strategies like removal spells, card draw, and utility creatures. It looks to get value from a variety of flashback and controlling spells to crush foes under the weight of the past. Black-Red is an aggressive beatdown deck that rewards you whenever you cast a non-creature spell. It looks to create wizard tokens and cast creature spells that benefit from you turning your non-creature spells into a barrage of damage. The Red-Green deck is an aggro deck that looks to take advantage of having lands enter the battlefield under your control. Playing creatures with landfall abilities and finding ways to consistently get lands to enter the battlefield under your control will strengthen your attack even further. Green-white is an archetype that encourages you to play a lot of creatures and have your board state go as wide as possible. Playing cards that create tokens and leverage your high creature count will bury your opponents in a hoard of value. Blue-red gets a twist on its typical spells theme, and this time it cares most about non-creature spells that cost 4 or more mana. Look for cards that pay you off for casting big spells, and the effect that these spells have on the game, plus the bonuses you'll receive, will sure to pay off big for you. Black-green is a recursion-centric deck that focuses on filling up its graveyard and getting value from its contents. Use the powerful creatures and flashback spells to your advantage by bringing them back for a second chance at life to fight into the late game and achieve victory. Red-white is an aggro deck that has extra synergy with equipment. Look for creatures that want to be equipped, or cards that reward you for having equipment as well as the equipment themselves to gear up and outclass your opponents. White-black gets the sacrifice theme this time around and has cards that sacrifice both creatures and artifacts, especially cards with death effects, to steadily gain the upper hand. Look for cards that produce 2 sacrificable bodies with 1 card, and cards that pay you off for sacrificing your own things. And green-blue is a ramp deck that uses a new land type, towns, to its maximum effect. Towns are lands that grant more perks the more of them you have, so play a bunch and reap the rewards. Off-color towns can also not only add to your town count, but help you splash other colors too. Now, the hardest part about the whole event is building your deck, but good news, I will now go through an entire Final Fantasy sealed deck build to give you an idea of what you want to be looking out for in your pool of cards, and how to maximize your chance of having a competitive deck for the event. Alright, and welcome to the deck building portion of the video. Before I get started, I want to let you know how I'm able to do this here today. I get a lot of questions about this. So the way I actually generated this pool, and you can do this too here now as soon as today, is going to the link that you see in the space here to my right or left or whatever, draftsim.com. That's actually where you can create sealed pools and actually do a couple practice drafts if you wanted to over there. But you can create the pool there, export it, and then I brought it over to the interface you see right now, sealeddeck.tech, and that's actually what I'm using to build and take a look at this sealed pool here today. So the first thing you want to do when you look at your pool is pretty much always sort by rarity. I think I cut it off up here, but you can, there's a button to sort by rarity as well, and check out what your rares are and if they are any good. So let's look at what we got here. We got a lot of white rares, it looks like, which is kind of nice. Summoner's Grimoire. I won't go too in-depth with all these cards. I don't want this portion to be super long, but this one's kind of like unplayable and limited. We did unfortunately get one of the rare lands, which is also not particularly good. And one thing I'll also say, and this is going to the future as well, I have never played Final Fantasy at all. I don't know how to pronounce any of these names, and I don't particularly care to know how to pronounce any of these names, so I'm going to do my best, and don't feel free to correct me in the comments if you are offended by the way I pronounce any of these legendary creatures. But we've got Xenos here, which is a 5-mana 4/4, kind of like a mini board wipe a little bit, then can turn into the most commander card I've ever seen. Burning Chains. When the chosen player loses the game, you win the game. Yeah, for our purposes in Limited, that's a given. We've got, Memories Returning, which is kind of like a take on Fact or Fiction, which is kind of cool. Machinist's Arsenal, 5 mana for a job select, so it's basically a 3/3. +2/+2 for each artifact you control, so it actually could be pretty good in an artifact build around. We've got a strange board wipe, end the turn, destroy all artifacts and creatures, but sure, board wipes are good and limited. And then Aerith Gainsborough, 3-mana 2/2 lifelink, life gain synergies, put counters on things when it dies. Not too bad. So these rares aren't horrible. I don't think we got like a ton of bombs necessarily, but this is usually where I start. And this is already telling me a little bit of blue-white, but let's go back up here and sort. And one other thing I notice is that this pool has a ton of white cards comparatively to the rest, which isn't entirely uncommon, per se. And that's not also to say that we're guaranteed to play white, but we've got a pretty good chance considering there's so many white cards over there. So, I mean, if I pull down all these white cards that seem pretty good, especially ones that might be pretty good with artifacts. I mean, blue-white is a deck that cares about artifacts. White-red cares about artifacts and the fact that it cares about equipment, which are artifacts. We've got Crystal Fragments, a 1/1/1 equip 1 with upside. And we do actually have 3 of these Magitech Infantries, which are like the, what's it called? Like the collect them all of the set a little bit. So you can pay 3 and then tutor another one to the battlefield. So like that's actually a nice little package here. Adalbert Steiner, 2 mana, 2/1 lifelink, gets +1/+1 for each equipment you control. I mean, we'll probably have at least a couple of equipment, so that's pretty good. Speaking of, here's a job select equipment, the one we saw previously in this video. 2 mana, 2/1 dies into a 1/1. Galacat, 3 mana, 1/3 flying vigilance, and if you control 2 artifacts, it gets +2/+0, pretty good. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of good artifact kind of build-arounds throughout the white so far. 3 mana, 3/2 basically that dies into an equipment. Got 2 of those. We do have one of these side quests here, which, again, having not played Final Fantasy, I'm sure this is relatively flavorful, but I don't know. You kind of get to flip it once you solve its little quest at the beginning of your upkeep. You can get an artifact or a creature card. Pretty good. Delivery Moogle, 4 mana, 3/2 flyer with upside. When it enters, search your library or graveyard for an artifact card mana value 2 or less. Put it in your hand and shuffle. That's actually like a really, is that a common or an uncommon? Okay, that's an uncommon, but I'm seeing a lot of artifact build-arounds already here. Got some artifacts over here too. No idea if they're any good, but Summon Primal Garuda, 4 mana, 3/3. Deals damage and then can give some things +1/+1 and flying. It seems fine. White Auracite, 4 mana for an artifact, and when it enters, exile target non-land permanent till it leaves the battlefield, and it adds white. We got 2 of those, so it's a nice artifact removal spell. That's a common too. And then 5 mana, 3/5. Whenever one or more creatures, I guess, and/or artifacts you control die, draw a card, triggers once each turn. It's 5 mana, 3/5 reach. So we have a ton of white, and they kind of all care about artifacts, which is kind of cool. Got a blue counterspell, cargo ship here, 2 mana, 2/3 flying vigilance, crew 1, can cast artifacts. It also works with our delivery Moogles, I guess. Put that in here. Is that Ilmeg Pixie? 2 mana, 2/1 flyer, attack, surveil 1. That's just a generically good card. 2 mana, 1/3. This is like that non-creature kind of build around. Don't think that's for us. 2 mana, 1/4. As long as you control 7 or more lands, it gets +3/+0. It is a 2 mana artifact though, and it's pretty defensive, so maybe that's fine. Got another side quest here. Draw 3, discard 2. And then if there are 8 or more cards in your graveyard, it turns into a 4/4 flyer with crew 1. This is the tap them down, keep them tapped of the set. Dragoon's Wyvern. 3 mana, 2/1 flyer, make a 1/1. That just seems generally good enough, right? And then Affinity for Towns. Sure, the towns, I don't think I mentioned in the previous as well, the tap lands, the dual tap lands are all towns in this set. So you've got tap for blue or green, enters tapped, but is also a town here. I mean, we've already got 28 cards in blue-white here as well. Let's take a short look at what else we have. Oh, there's also Titus. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a counter on it. Whenever it attacks, tap a creature. Seems probably fine in this deck. Monk's Fist. 2 mana for essentially a 2/1. And then when that 1/1 dies or you move it around, it gives something else +1/+0. It's fine for an artifact in this little deck that we're constructing so far here. 2 mana, 0/4. That seems pretty bad. 3 mana, 3/2 flyer. Whenever it attacks, draw a card, discard a card, crew 2. Probably not good enough. Lionheart, 4 mana, ETBs, deals 2 to anything. And then it gets +2/+1, equip 2. It does not have job select though. It's probably still pretty good though. 6 mana, 6/5, triple menace. Maybe. Who knows? What do we have that sticks out to me in other colors here? So we've got Vane's Treachery. 2 of these sack an artifact or creature, kind of turns into a small removal spell to a big removal spell. That's pretty good as well. With the amount of white cards we have, it's kind of hard to not be white, but we'll see. 2-mana 2/2 dies, make a treasure. That's pretty good. 2-mana 2/1 menace, deals combat damage to a player. You impulse draw off the top of their library, then you exile the top card of their library, sack an artifact or creature. If you do, play the exiled card, blah, blah, blah. It's too much text. I don't feel like reading it. Play the exiled card. Okay, I see. Some more job select. We have 3 haste magics. What is this? Some sort of combat trick. +3/+1 in haste. Yeah, it's not super great. 6 damage to a creature. And then equipment. 6 mana 5/4 trample haste. So I'm not seeing like a ton of great cards. It's a funny art. Prompto Argentum. I'm not seeing a ton of cards that are moving me off of this kind of blue-white artifact thing that we have going on. I probably don't need the Primal Garudas here. And one thing I also usually say in this portion of each of these set review videos is that trust your gut on where your mind originally goes to. Yes, you have 50 minutes to build most of the time, but like there's rarely a time when I see like the buildings of like what my pool is trying to do and then like go a completely different route like black-green or something after this. So build that original deck and then start to look around and see if anything that's left in your pool is worth going away from that original deck. And if so, then you could start playing around. But I mean, for time here, I'm not going to sit here and build 3 or 4 different decks for you all. Let's see, 6 mana 6/6 trample ETBs gain 3. Oh, I like that one. That's a fun card. I got 2 of those. There's a ton of synergy here with these artifacts though, plus our couple of rares, the board wipe, the card draw spell. This one is just like generically fine, I guess. And then the arsenal really works well with the artifact thing that we got going on here. But yeah, most of the time what your instinct tells you is a pretty good spot to be, unless you see a ton of really good cards that are pulling you in different directions, which can happen in sealed pools, don't get me wrong. But we have a ton of synergy here, and I haven't seen even a lot of synergy in what's left. It's just like some generically fine cards. I guess the Treacheries, maybe the Xenos, maybe there's like a black-green kind of deck here, but I don't think it's going to be as synergistic as what we've got. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is kind of like narrow this down into a deck that I would probably consider running at a local pre-release down to 23 cards and 17 lands more than likely, and then see where that takes me. So I'll make a cut to that right now. Okay, after kind of trimming it down, here's where I roughly ended up for this blue-white artifact build. I got my lands here. Tons of white cards, which was kind of expected based on the number of white we had in our pool here. We've got, 11 creatures, a little bit low, but a lot of really good artifacts, including at least a couple of job select cards, which are kind of like other creatures here. 1, 2, 3 more, so almost like 14 creatures here. The Mughals can search up infantry or sentinel, fragments, lance, and Titus, more artifacts. I mean, yeah, this just seems like a nice, relatively synergistic sealed deck, which isn't super common per se. A lot of the time it's just like, where are my best cards? Let me just fill it around. But being able to get some synergy in sealed is always a nice little thing too as well. So like I said, if I had a little bit more time with you all and I was at my pre-release with 50 minutes, checking out something like Vane's Treachery plus Balaam T-Rexar plus Xenos, maybe some sort of black-green deck. Black-green cares about the graveyard. Those cards don't particularly. I mean, there's a fight on, but I really do like the synergy we've got with this blue-white artifact deck here as well. So this is probably where I'd land. Trust your gut. Look at your rares. See what your best cards are. Look where your synergy is. Look where you've got extra little things like Major Deck Infantry synergy and things like that as well. And best of luck at your pre-release events this weekend. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this video was helpful to you and helps you build up the courage needed to go participate in a pre-release event at your LGS this weekend. If you've never been to one before, I highly recommend it. It's one of the absolute most fun ways to play Magic, and you'll meet tons of different players there. If you do end up going, return back to this video and leave a comment, let me know how it went for you. I'd love to hear feedback from all of you about your event. Thanks so much for sticking around until the end of this video, and I'll see you here soon at Daily Draft.